5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Podcast number 11 is about to go down, and we're doing this again for the second time.
Hey,
because
take two.
This idiot didn't press the button. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. Bob goes, "We got to do this again." Yes, we are. Thank God we're only about 5 minutes into this thing, so
Yeah,
it's
it
not
wasn't
a
that
big
bad.
deal.
Felt
like an hour.
I
Yeah.
know.
Hey, nobody was crying. We don't have to we don't have to
Yes.
go back to anything that was uncomfortable. Nobody was crying.
goodness.
Nobody was no revelations happened that we got to say it again. So
I should not be allowed to do this podcast. I think after this, I'm done. I can't obviously
How
handle
about this? My job will to make sure you hit that button.
I got it written down too, and I can't even read my notes. So God damn it! All right, so we're gonna fast forward just a little bit. So, I have a special guest with me today, with me and Matt today. This is Bob Campbell. Me and Bob go way back. We used to be roomies, and Bob is an absolute stand-up guy. One of my favorite people in the world, and whenever I see you, which isn't very often, even though we live as close as we live.
You make me want to just get up and hug you right now.
I know, I do. I can see it in your eyes. But you're definitely the kind of guy where, I think the world of you.
Appreciate
so
that, brother.
I've been
Likewise.
wanting to get Bob on for quite some time, and he had
This
a
was
little
the first
butterflies.
time you asked me to.
No, bullshit. I asked you a long time ago. But I'm glad you're here today because I think you have a great story to tell. You have an interesting history. I think you made an impact in this world, which is, I'm actually glad we started this over because this brought me up to something else.
Yeah.
One of the things I always go through my head is what kind of impact did I leave on the world? You know what I mean? So that's something we might want to ponder, after the podcast is done and you guys go to sleep at night. What kind of impact did I put in the world?
It's every day. That's
heavy, man.
That's my everyday, man.
It's heavy.
Yes.
So before the podcast, before I didn't hit the button, we talked about the COVID vaccine. I think we're all going to wait a little bit, see what happens.
See that schedule. Check
Yep.
the schedule and,
Yep.
see what's going on.
I still can't believe I didn't hit the button. That's going to bother me
Hey, yeah.
all night long now. But that's okay. So, this is
Right.
part of the process.
Right.
Hour number 3.
Also, the battery dies on this thing.
Yeah.
Damn it. So, we'll back up. So, Bob is a police or was a police officer, which retired police officer. And I'll bring this up again, but I had a bad experience when I was young. I was arrested. I was looking at a number of years in jail for something that I didn't do. Thank God I believe in the judicial system because it set me free. And I was found innocent. So part of my problem as I was growing up is I'm very leery of being around police officers. My other best friend is a police officer, so he has helped me through the years to one thing we were talking about earlier was I can't let one guy taint that whole,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's my story. It's something I have to deal with, but I think these conversations really do help. I mean, you're not a cop anymore, but you're still helping, you know what I mean? So I think your job just doesn't end, when you retire, you're still there. And coming here and sharing your story is going to be huge because we have a lot to talk about tonight and it's going to help out a lot of people. And that's what we're about. If we can help one person tonight, I think that's going to be huge.
Job is done.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you come from a place of helping and being a mentor. So this is going to be a great podcast. So I do apologize for not hitting the button. I never said I was smart, so you can't blame me for that. So why don't we go back again? We talked about why did you want to become a cop?
I liked it better the first time. I wanted to become a cop because I wanted to help people out. I wanted to wear the uniform. I loved the fact that they were always back in the day seemed to be respected. I'd sit down at a parade and watch them marching in a parade, and I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. And then I've had interactions with police officers prior to becoming a police officer, and I'm like, I think that's what I want to do. Wasn't what I initially wanted to do.
What'd you want to do before? I mean, male model would have been up on the list.
Not now. No, I believe it or not, I wanted to be like Quincy. If you remember that television series.
The doctor. Wow.
I wanted to get into working for like LAPD on the forensics division, and go. I was working at Bay State at the time. I was doing autopsies.
That's right.
I was a surgical diener there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I want to go out there. So I initially had all my stuff set and ready to go. I was going to go out to LAPD. I was going to take the exam. It was a 1-week exam. Met my future wife.
Oh,
she said,
they always
absolutely
ruin
not.
everything.
That's how they do it. That's how they get you. That's how they get you.
Yeah, next thing you know, here we are.
It's all about love.
Ain't that like a woman?
Yeah. Yeah, because my wife ruined my modeling career. I was so on the fast track of being a model. Look where I am now.
No, I'm glad. You know what? In looking at hindsight, I'm glad I stayed here as opposed to going out there. I don't know if I would have fit in, because I was more of like a small town cop. Just because I like getting out there and talking with people. I didn't want to be just a badge number per se.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, hey, it's Officer Campbell. Hey, I wanted to be that person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting that I didn't know you were a resource officer.
Yeah.
So my buddy Kenny is a resource officer. And to me, knowing you guys.
And he was a DRE.
And he was a DRE, yeah.
So,
yeah. It's kind of funny how you guys are, you're the same caliber of person.
that's awesome.
So, that's really neat. I think that's people that have the caliber that you have, the aura that you give off. I think the kids would pick that up and be very respectful of that and want to get to know you. I think that's how you make the difference.
Well, for me, it was I had kids, and whenever I looked at or whenever I was inside the school and I would talk to the kids, I would try and talk at their level, but in the same aspect, I had to maintain the professionalism as being a police officer, because I'd want them to be able to come to me with anything,
right,
and just talk to me. Even if they just wanted to come and vent, my office was always open. They'd come into the office, and or I'd go I'd go into the gym, shoot some basketballs.
Yeah.
I'd miss all the time, but
to it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I enjoyed it. That was a fun aspect of the job. I've always said this: the best police officers were the ones that weren't always police officers.
Right.
The ones that can remember what it was like not to be a police officer.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about the fact that you were a canine officer too.
Yeah.
So you said you bought a rescue dog and then
did.
trained up, which is near and dear to my heart, because obviously I've been in rescue now for about 9 years. So I've been through the gamut with fosters and those kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
So that was amazing to hear that you took a rescue dog and then made into a canine.
As a matter of fact, my 3 hounds that I've had, and yes, I was a bloodhound handler. My 3 hounds that I've had were all rescue dogs. I still have one right now. He's a rescue dog. I haven't trained him as one. He's still young. I can get him going. As a matter of fact, my second dog, he was a year and a half, and then I had him going, training with him on a daily basis and stuff. But
Yeah.
my first dog she was 3 or 4 when I got her, and she was probably the best canine that I've had. She was phenomenal.
Yeah. I used to love watching the pictures on Facebook of you with the dog. You guys definitely had a bond.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I loved my dogs. They were there was nothing more rewarding than seeing them work, and then the fruits of all the hard work and stuff start coming out when what they're doing is not only amazing to you, but to the people that are with you and watching. because we'd always have to have somebody with us. When let's say a bloodhound is utilized for man trailing. So they're not used for bite dogs. They're not used for drugs, narcotics.
Oh, really?
No.
No kidding.
It's specifically for man trailing.
Yeah.
And they're one of the only dogs that is accepted in the court system because of their how strong their noses are. They have the strongest nose of the canine family as far as their olfactory.
Right. Yeah.
But they're just an amazing animal. Love them.
Yeah. Did you so you brought the dog into school?
Yep.
And got to hang out with the kids and use the dog as a tool.
When I first started out, I was this still a school resource officer. As a matter of fact, I was a school resource officer for another 3 or 4 years after I started doing canine, because I would bring the dog into the school with me. Actually, they made they modified my cruiser so that I at the time could carry a dog and a passenger in the rear of the cruiser.
Oh, wow.
They're doing that now in most cruisers, but at the time that wasn't heard of.
One of the first.
It was just a kennel is what they would utilize, and it worked out awesome. She would come in, kid be volatile, and I'd bring him into my office, him or her, I should say, into my office. They'd sit down, still be volatile. They'd see the dog and be like, "Can I pet your dog?" I'd be like, "Okay, go ahead."
Yeah.
And they'd start petting my dog, and she would eat that up.
Oh, yeah.
She loved affection.
Yeah.
Pet my dog. Next thing you know, they start out at a 10. They're down to maybe
That excitement level
3, 4.
freaking drops real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you can talk with them, and then you can hear what got them to that level and what set them off. And you'd be amazed at some of the things that you learn.
Yeah. I'm like I said before, I have a fear at a certain level of police, but what I see going on now in the utter disrespect, and I'm not saying that some of this stuff isn't warranted at some level, but we were talking a while ago, I'm more of a Martin Luther King type person where if I want change, I'm going to do it the correct way. The throwing stuff at them, all that kind of stuff, caving in their windows, burning their cruisers, none of that resonates with me. I think it's disgusting, as a matter of fact. I'm worried what that type of behavior is just going to, how long are we going to deal with that? So I hope that changes a little bit, but I think needs to be change on both sides, but being violent towards cops in that way, I'll never be in agreement with that.
It's disrespect.
Ever. You know what I mean?
100% disrespect.
So I was just watching something the other day where they were, I think they were evicting somebody, and they were putting bricks and rocks through the cruiser windows. I can't get behind that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's got to be uncomfortable for you to see, especially now that you're not a cop anymore, but you get to see the devastation that's happening around the country with that.
I don't know if I get to see it, but I still talk to the guys that I used to work with, and just hearing some of the stories that they even when I was still a police officer, there's been a couple times like I'd have a motor vehicle stop, and I'd come up to the window, and next thing you know, I got a camera in my face, and I'd be like, okay, license or registration. They'd be like, oh, Officer Campbell, because it happens to be one of my old students that used to be, and they'd be like, oh, and I'm like, no, if you want to keep that up, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
But they, as soon as they, because they knew that I wasn't the type that was going to, exactly. Yeah. But that's the problem today. Most of these cops aren't given a chance. To be fair, to be honest with you, they're not. People look at them and they're like, "Oh, it's a cop," and then instead of saying, "Oh, it's a police officer," like growing up, we learned to be. I mean, we as kids grew up. We were respectful to police. Right. Now it's not there anymore.
You almost. It's funny you said that, because you almost, as a kid, like as us as kids, you almost stopped. And I don't see stood at attention, but if you saw a cop go by or whatever, you'd stop. Give a little respect, a little praise, you know, and you move on. Now, cop rolls by, kids are flipping fingers, taking the pill. Oh, what are they gonna do now? What are they gonna do? What's gonna happen?
Gosh, I used to say to myself, I'd rather deal with the police officer back then than them bringing me home to my parents. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great subject that you brought up about filming the police. I am a proponent for that, but in a very respectful manner. Like when you come up to my door, license registration, not, why'd you pull me over? And we start getting into it. That's not, my place should be, here's my license registration. I think a lot of people, especially during a traffic stop, they go right to that anger, right to, why did you pull me over? I wasn't doing anything, and I think if people tone that down and just be a little bit more respectful, you never know. He might have had no intention of giving you a ticket, but it's that escalation in the beginning, and you're not going to win a battle on the side of the road.
Let's put it in another, sorry about that. Let's put it in another double edge to it. I pull you over. Maybe I didn't have an intention of giving you a citation. I just wanted to tell you, hey, this is what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. You now have the camera in front of my face. If I don't act as I'm instructed to act, i.e., that I'm asking for your license, your registration, if I was just going to, if you didn't have that camera on me, I could be coming up and just saying, all right, hey, you need to slow it down. Have a nice day. Now that you have that camera on me, now I have to go
protocol,
go through the whole gamut because this could be held against me.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword, and I definitely get it.
And it's a, who do I have right here? Oh, look at Officer Campbell. Didn't do this, do that.
Exactly. Yeah, I could get scrutinized by my own peers,
exactly,
or my supervisors, as opposed to just could have just said, hey, have a nice day.
Yeah. So, like in my car, I have a pretty sophisticated camera system, and I don't have to do all that. Like, I'm not an 18-year-old kid. I mean, I have a YouTube channel, but I'm certainly not going to put that on. But I can honestly say that over the years, any interaction I've had with a police officer since that first one has actually been very positive for the most part. So, I don't know if I'll ever get over my fear, but again, having this podcast,
gotta get stopped more often.
No way. I'm gonna run next time. I heard you guys love that shit. It's like a game.
Can you run fast?
No, I can't.
That's an easy game. That's an easy game right there.
I got from the driveway to the end of the driveway, then I'm done. But my worst fear is getting tased. I have this conversation with my buddy Kenny all the time. He's like, I would rather get tased than pepper sprayed.
I'm just the opposite.
Yeah, see,
I'd rather get sprayed 10 times than get tased.
The taser.
I've gotten one of those.
I've gotten sprayed
not directly at me. It was in a club.
Yep, that's where I think we were there at the same time. Was that the Metro Zone or
no? This is a different time. This is a different time, which is a funny story on another night, but. I've gotten the spray in the eyes and the milk afterwards.
I would take that any day of the week as opposed to being tased. I hated getting tased to the point. I just
see, that's what
just
I'm saying.
See, that was one of they gave us the option of being tased when we were getting certified to be able to utilize it. I wanted to see what it was like to get tased because if I'm going to tase somebody. Or if someone takes the taser from me, I want to know what my reaction's going to be.
Yep.
And let me tell you, I hated it. It didn't suit me well.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Like even my buddy Kenny talks about cameras. He's been filmed. He was on YouTube once where a guy put him on YouTube. And he says the same thing over and over again all the time to me. He's like, I don't care about that camera at all. And I love to hear that because that we shouldn't be afraid of the camera. And unfortunately, it's like a double-edged sword. What if you do have that interaction with somebody who's dirty, and we see it, and that's
many times.
Yeah, and so I don't know what the correct formulation is, but I do know this: I control my own attitude, I control my reaction. So if I do get pulled over, I'm going to be respectful. because in the long run, I'm not going to win on the side of the road. I'm certainly not going to make a friend if I start screaming at him and yelling at him, because he might not have any intentions of giving me a ticket. If I'm speeding, if I'm doing something wrong.
Yelling at him, what is it? What purpose is it?
It doesn't, and we're seeing these videos that are coming out where the poor guy doesn't even get to the car and people are just lashing out, and the language is unreal.
The way that I always looked at it is, if you treat me with respect, I'm going to treat you with respect. Right. And
100%.
that's how a lot of the other cops I worked with were like. You treat us with respect, we'll treat you with respect.
Sure.
In the 23 years I was a police officer, I have some pretty good. I
can imagine.
I've had some definitely some interesting motor vehicle stops.
Yeah, but I think that's what everybody, I think a lot of the escalations that the situation runs into, where people think they don't have to conform to what the police officer is saying. If he tells you you're being detained, you're detained. I mean, it's not a, you ain't
gonna win.
Yep.
You ain't gonna say no. You're gonna say no, I'm not.
And I watch a lot of those videos, and I every so often I'll talk to my friend about the videos that I watch, and it's not because I want to just be more informed on how I shouldn't do or what I shouldn't do. You know what I mean? Where I think if people just took 2 seconds out, just listened to what they said. Like I was watching one the other day where I think it was in Hartford, Connecticut. Her car was reported stolen. They ran her plate as they drove by. It was reported stolen. He's just trying to tell her it's stolen. She goes off the hook, and she ended up getting arrested. And he's showing her on his phone, look at your car shows it's stolen. Like, I'm not making this up. She didn't want to hear it. And then she gets back to the police station, and she's like, oh, I didn't know it was stolen. Like, you could have got through all that by just listening. You know what I mean? And it's not his fault your car was reported stolen, but the tension and everything is just there. So, that's another great thing about the podcast is now we're having people, we're talking about these things as a whole, throwing it out there and coming up with solutions.
And one question I was going to ask you, you talked about, why you became a cop. Did you have anybody in your family that were cops or anything like that?
Nope.
Wow.
Nope. Nobody in my family was a police officer. My grandfather worked at a jail, but that was about it. Nobody was a police officer.
Yeah. It's, and I wanted to become a cop for the longest time until that happened to me.
Yeah,
and I have a few.
And I remember you talking about wanting to become a cop.
Yep. And I started going through the process. I used to work doing loss prevention. I was going through the SPO program. I never got into it because the company I was working for closed down, but I was, doing the training and all that kind of stuff. And that was going to be my sponsor to go in. And then that happened. And, and unfortunately that wasn't my future anymore, but I always wonder what if, what I mean? But I can't get upset where I'm at in life because I think I've done fairly well. I'm still handsome.
Kind
you know what I'm saying?
Kind of, sort of, maybe.
Have a couple more of those Trulies, maybe.
Well, let's ask Eye Candy Randy right
What's
here.
in that coffee cup, man?
Randy, am I handsome? Oh, you're so handsome. Do you like his hat? Bah humbug. My buddy Jeff brought that last on Friday. So
one of these times he is going to talk.
He's going to talk. We're working on it now, man. We're working out the bugs.
The humbugs.
Right here. This is where Eye Candy Randy's going to come to life is right here. So this is what he's thinking about right now. That's going on in his head constantly.
He's going to Frankenstein something over here real quick.
So let's get into what made you that you had to retire. Because before you start, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it's important to realize that it is a split-second decision that can ruin a career, and it's not a decision that you made if someone else made that for you. But it does go to show you what can happen out in the field. So go ahead.
Back in August of 2015, I did a swap with another individual in the department. See, anything can happen at any point in time, anywhere.
Yep.
I did this swap, and I've done hundreds of swaps with people. I took his.
I'm gonna put this a little bit.
I took
closer.
his 11 at night to 7 in the morning shift. So I met up with the one of the supervisors at a bank, and we were in the parking lot, and we were just shooting the jaw. And that's basically one of the things that I miss about the job is talking with the guys in the department. We'd pull up next to each other, go driver's door to driver door, and just talk. Hey, how's the family?
Gaze into each other's eyes.
Exactly. It's 11 at night to 7 in the morning shift. Come on now. So we were sitting there talking, and then a call came over that. Let me preface that. We left that parking lot, started heading up to Cumberland Farms. It was up the hill from where we were, and we were going to stop and get a cup of coffee and so forth. As we're heading up there, we get this call of a car that's failing to stop. It's traveling at a high rate of speed, and it turned down a street.
Yeah.
So I was kind of close to the area, so I took a right to head onto the street. It's where the person started coming from one side of the street, and I came in from the other. So, and it was at a corner, and as I was coming around the corner, the next thing I knew, I woke up for a second in the back of an ambulance, and then the next time I woke up, I was getting staples put in my head, and then the next time I woke up, they were talking about discharging me until they saw a enormous growth in the back of my neck, and I was there for 3 weeks after.
So tell the audience what happened.
I was my cruiser was struck on the driver's side by the car that was fleeing at 90 miles an hour. Hit my driver's side, lifted my cruiser off the ground into a parked van, imprinted 19 inches into the parked van.
Jesus Christ.
And that parked van's the only reason why my cruiser didn't roll and continue to roll. There were so many things in play that night that if it wasn't for this or if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here having this nice conversation with you guys.
Were you in the car by yourself?
I didn't have my canine, and I was by myself. I was actually in a regular, I shouldn't say regular, I think it was a brand new 2015, what is it, the Ford...
It's like an SUV.
SUV, yeah. And thank goodness for their side impact airbags, the whole 9 yards, because I'm here still.
Right.
But he hit me at 90 miles an hour. At that point, maybe it was more along the lines of 70, because I don't know if he was. I couldn't tell you. I just didn't remember what happened. And to this day I have a tough time now because I did get some head trauma. My longitudinal, latitudinal ligament in the back of my neck was slightly torn. Had that fully torn, I would have been paralyzed.
Now that driver was a driver
17 years old.
17.
Took his grandfather's car without
and just joyriding, no drinking, drugs.
He wrote me a letter later on saying that I'm glad nobody got hurt. Okay. In court. I saw him in court. You think the least now I was 17 years old at one point in time. I always wanted I always said, if you do something wrong, at least own up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And be a man about it. Okay,
Right.
You're 17, you're going to be 18. Be a man about it. I didn't even get I'm sorry. That's all I was looking for.
Right.
I was a school resource officer. I dealt with 17-year-olds
Every day.
Every day.
Now, was this kid part of your school?
No.
No.
Just happened to be out for a joyride. He had picked up this girl on some online thing, and then wanted to show her a good time. So
Tinder.
I have
Gets
no
you every
idea
time.
what it was, but
Yeah.
at least this is what I'm told.
Yeah.
I don't know the full gamut of what had happen and so forth. But yeah, and that's what because of that day, I ended up getting cadaver bone and a titanium plate put in my neck because I pretty much broke one of my bones in my neck, and then I have numbness going down my left arm. These two fingers are partially numb to the point where, like, I was sawing a piece of wood in the garage, and it happened to go in my finger. And had it not been for the blood that I was seeing trickling, I would have never known that. My left leg is completely numb. So, and I have severe neck and back pain. And you know what? I'll have that for the rest of my life. But the way I'm looking at it, I stay positive.
Yep.
I'm alive, and I'm here. I have 3 kids. I get to be with my 3 kids. I get to be with my wife. I get to still enjoy the rest of my whatever is left of my life. Yeah. God has a purpose, and I'm
wasn't your time.
Sons and daughters.
I have 2 boys and 1 girl.
Yeah. Get that dance in, man. Get that dance.
Yeah.
Well, she's past that now.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking about the marriage dance.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I mean, as we continue on this, you're gonna learn about my mother and my brother and so forth. So, but
so I got to see the picture. I don't remember who sent me the picture of his cruiser. Within a couple of days of him getting hit. I think it was the next day. And you look at this car, and you would never be able to believe that somebody walked away from that.
Right.
It was, and to know that I've known him for as long as I have, that everybody panicked. Everybody was calling your wife and making sure, like, what can we do? And at that time, there's really nothing anybody could do. It was kind of touch and go for you for a little bit, and she didn't have any answers. And I can imagine what she was going through.
They didn't know what was going on because they actually thought I was dead on scene.
Yeah,
and because they had to use the jaws of life to get me out. From what I understand, they had an issue. The fire truck broke down on the way to the to extricate. They ended up having to run carrying the
jaws
equipment
really
to get me. Yeah, and let me tell you, they are. My life is in their hands.
Right.
I've said this to them, and I'll always say this to the fire department. Can I put a prop out to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Southbridge Fire, thank you so much.
Yes.
They are unbelievable, and thank God for them because if it wasn't for them, I don't know.
Yeah, I always mess with my buddy Kenny that the firemen are the real heroes. So we go back and forth all the time. It's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's only people don't get it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so he put a picture up. His one of his friends gave him a mask and it had the thin blue line on it. So I went and photoshopped it and I put the red in there, right? And I put it back on his Facebook page and I said, "Here I go. I fixed it." The hate mail that he got, because people don't understand the bickering that we do back and forth.
It goes like back and forth, left and right. I mean, but it's friendly bickering.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some.
We used to ball bust those. I always got along with the fire guys because I was a medic in the National Guard. So I whenever they would show up on scene, I'd be helping them get the stretcher or getting the first aid bag and bringing that in. But you can tell the guys that get along with them and who don't.
Yeah, yeah. No, we were going down Boston Road a little while ago, and I forget the name of that bar that's down there, but one side of it says "Thank you, firemen." So we're going to Home Depot, and I said to him, "Look at that sign right there. Thanks to the fireman." He goes, "Yeah, look in your rearview mirror." And I looked in the back, and the next one was "Thank you, flat." I'm like, "God damn it!"
He knew. He wanted to make sure, man.
That's awesome.
So it's a running joke, and it's one of those things that I'm glad we can joke about stuff like that because I have 2 cousins that are firemen. Shout out to Mike and Jason. So it's and those are 2 good guys. So it's nice to be able to have that that camaraderie and that joking around and stuff like that. Because I tell you, we
right.
you know, we joke, and some people look at us and go, "I can't believe you guys are friends." You know, 'cause we'll do it in public, you know, and then people are looking at us like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're just cracking up. So, to kind of transition into another step here, you dealt with a lot of people that were addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And I have a close person in my life that was an addict. So I want to read some statistics here. Like I always trip on that word. So almost 21 million Americans have at least one addiction, yet only 10% of them receive treatment. Drug overdoses have tripled, or drug overdose deaths have more than tripled since 1990. I gotta put my glasses on because I'm getting old. Alcohol and drug addiction cost the U.S. economy over $600 billion per year. That's a crazy number. So going to opiate addiction, from 1999 to 2017, 399,230 Americans lost their lives to opioids. 47,600 fatal overdoses occurred in America, which involved at least one opiate. Since 1999, the sale of opiate painkillers has skyrocketed by 300%.
Damn.
You know, and so we have a root cause, and then we have where we're at. 2 million Americans misused prescription opioids for the first time in 2017. Approximately 2.1 million Americans have an opioid use disorder. You know, these are scary numbers, and you know, it all depends on what you're looking at for information. You know, I think now they're finally starting to do something. And one thing that I really like about what our police department here is doing, and this is where I think the change where change really happens, has to happen at the ground level, right? So they realize that they can't arrest this problem away. So now we talked about my buddy being a DRE officer like yourself, but he's also part of this program, and I wish I would have called him before I started to find out what it is, but basically he gets involved now with any overdose with their family. So he becomes that go-between where he goes and has those conversations, those tough conversations with them. Like someone just overdosed the other day. He went in there and had to talk to the parents, which has to be one of the most horrific conversations to have. But I'm so proud of him because he's being that person that's stepping up to the plate and, you know, being that change, and his department is too. So hats off to those guys for making the change, because, you know, I have a different mentality when it comes to drug abuse after seeing firsthand that a lot of these people are great people before this happens. I had coffee a lot with an officer who got addicted to drugs and ended up getting fired. He went in for hip surgery, came out a drug addict. So, I mean, it can happen to anybody.
Anybody. So
I come from a point of what are we trying to do at the ground level to make this not happen anymore. So you have a personal story. Your brother passed away from an overdose. So in your own words, like, how did this happen for him? When did he start? What was his trigger?
Well, it's first. Let me start before that. My mother, was an alcoholic, and she ended up dying of cirrhosis, and that was a couple months before my wedding. We tried bumping up our wedding so that she could be there, and it didn't work out that way. Mm-hmm. So at that point, then my brother came to live with me, because there was an 11-year gap between my brother and I. So I think I was 25, 26.
Was he living with her at the time?
He was living with her, and his father wanted nothing to do with him. So we had my brother come live with us. he started going to school. We moved him from one area to another, and it was kind of like in the high school stream. So he kind of didn't feel like he fit in, but in the same token, he ended up fitting in. But then he got to the point where he wanted to not go to school anymore because he felt he could do things on his own, that he was going to get his GED because he had stayed back a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And being his brother and now having to be that parent figure to him was kind of an interesting thing. Take a step back. When my mother was dying, one of the things I promised her is that I would look after my brother. I would take care of my brother, that she doesn't have to worry about this anymore.
Yep.
And no sooner did I say that, she let her last breath of air go.
Wow.
So later on down, let's go years down the road, he had a work-related accident, started taking some pain pills. At this point, he was living with somebody else, and one thing led to another, and the pain pills started going into other things, led into heroin. Overdosed one time, then we got him into a rehab facility, went to rehab facility, then went out to another place. I think it's like a halfway house or whatnot. Then from there, was doing well on his own. In the midst of all this, I'm kind of like skipping a lot of a lot of areas. He ended up having a daughter, beautiful girl. Loved her. He loved her very much, but those demons took over again, and he ended up having relapsing.
How long was he clean for?
Maybe a year.
Okay.
He relapsed, overdosed again. This time, his daughter had to call 911. It was while he was driving. He got into an accident. Daughter called 911. He ended up having to do jail time for that. I ended up going to get him out of jail, brought him to a rehab facility again. Rehabbed. I thought he was doing well, but then he had met somebody, and we just weren't talking as frequent. I was out camping, and we were sitting down. I got a text message from his then girlfriend saying that he was acting weird. They got into a fight. He was acting weird. Didn't want to talk to her. Could I please reach out? And she was worried that he was getting back into it again. So I texted him, and we kept on going back and forth. I tried calling him, but he was saying that his battery was running low, so he could only talk via text. And next thing you know, we just kept on texting up until about midnight, and I thought he had just fallen asleep at that point. The next morning, I tried text him again, no response. I waited about maybe a half an hour because it was like, I think it was like around 9 o'clock in the morning, and then at about 10, it was actually about an hour. 10 o'clock, I tried him again, nothing. Called up police department and asked them if they could just do a well-being check on him because he was kind of acting weird, but I wanted them to, and they found him later on and called me up, and they called the police department that I was working at, and they or that I had been retired at, because my brother, who's always been proud of me being a cop, had my business card in his wallet. And they notified one of the guys in the PD. They came to my house and talked with me and stuff, made sure I was okay, and then I had to go and clean out his apartment and all that.
Wow.
Yep.
I'm sorry you had to do that. That's very hard.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, man.
The
It's
thing-
very brave of you to tell that story.
The thing that really hits every now and then is because I've always made that promise to my mother that I was going to look after him. And he was living with us sporadically. But it got to the point where he was starting to bring drugs into the house. And here I am as a police officer with kids, and they see their uncle nodding out at the living room couch, and it's like, hey, and you try and you think that you've worked things out, then you say, okay, enough's enough. I mean, you make this promise, and then you have to turn around and say, enough's enough. It was that, to this day, obviously you can see it hits hard.
Yeah, I mean, I had to make a decision like that at one time, and it's not easy because you know it's going to affect a lot of things around you. Your bubble's going to change, and that's why I think it was really important to have you on today and to tell that story.
Granted, there's more to the story,
Sure.
as far as how many times he's used, different situations where we'd find. He not only lived. See, where I live, there's a house in the back that is where my wife's stepfather lives. He went and stayed there, and he found my brother passed out in the bathroom one day with 3 bags sitting in the toilet after he had used, and he was passed out and he didn't know what to do. So I started running over to the house because at least I knew how to handle the situation. And it was pitch black out, couldn't see anything, and I was running, and I didn't realize that there was a bobcat dump on the ground, and I went assing over tea kettle on the. Excuse me.
Yeah,
but,
no, you can swear.
I went butt over tea kettle. There we go.
Yeah.
This is an R-rated.
Mauled my leg. Something sucked, but no. And then I've talked with, and this is the thing. When I was doing law enforcement, I've dealt with a bunch of people that have overdosed, and I've had to use Narcan. I can't tell you how many times. It got to the point where at the beginning of shift, they were issuing us 2 Narcan
Per shift?
per shift.
Ugh.
Because there was a methadone clinic in town and so forth, it made it convenient for people in the area. However, they were doing a really good job with trying to help people out and that down. That's one thing I can honestly say about the PD I was working at. They were really good about working with people that had drug dependencies and so forth.
Good.
But it got to the point though where you'd even show up on scene and they would have their own Narcan because they know they have issues, or the family knows that they have issues, so they'd have Narcan already at the house. And then you'd have to go and use another one of yours even after they've used theirs. It was it was unbelievable.
You know, this brings us to another. You guys get to see a lot of stuff that the average person doesn't see. You know, whether it be death, drugs. I mean, it just keeps going on and on.
Want to know why we ball bust?
Yeah, and that's
why we joke around.
That's why I'm bringing this up. But the other point is, what would happen? So I'm a firm believer that mental health needs to change even for you guys. And my point is that you should be able to, because I'll tell you right now, if I saw that kind of stuff day in and day out, it would change me as a person. And I went through therapy years ago. It was the best thing I ever did, but I don't think that's the same for you guys. If you asked for help, what would be the next step for you? Like, could you get help, or would they take you off the street? How does that work?
Good question. I haven't seen it done, but
so
what I can tell you is that a lot of the guys would talk to the other guys about it, and when they do, if they felt that it was an issue, there's some guys that would go and talk to a supervisor and whatnot, and the best thing to have is an approachable supervisor that you can go and talk to and say, hey, listen, I need some help.
Yep.
Those are the kind of guys that you need. If you don't have those on, a lot of times you have to go talk to your doctor and have your doctor prescribe you to not prescribe you, but to tell you to go see.
Now, is there a support, like hopping on what Jeff was saying? Is there a support group that's within the PD, or they have to send you? You know, if we got to that, would they send you somewhere else?
Department on bigger agencies, I'll say yes.
Yeah.
But on smaller agencies, you're not going to see that because they're smaller. They're small. It's just like PTSD. How many? When you talk about the different things that we've come across and what we've seen, to this day, I still have PTSD.
Sure.
And I'm on medication. I have to say that I am on medication for the PTSD, and it's all job related.
Sure.
It's all from. I still have vivid memories. My wife tells me about my nightmares and stuff. I mean, I'll wake up and I'll be like freaking out, and then because I a lot of times I don't remember my dreams a few days later, and she'll remind me of what I've had, and it's not because it's because this the trauma that I received. I can't remember certain things.
Right.
Yeah,
but
it's deep, man. Like, and I.
But I'm sorry, where I kind of digress there.
Sure.
But the PTSD, they don't. Not all departments have groups that can help you with these things. Larger agencies, I'll say, I can't say all of them have them, but there are a lot of larger agencies that have them. They have to, because they see it more prevalent.
Yeah.
I mean, they see it with a higher prevalence than they do on smaller departments.
Yep. You know, so I really believe that they should have a place to go, even if it's like once a month. It's like should be like a mandatory thing where you sit down with somebody, and there's no like, you know, I think and I don't know if this is true or not, but would it be, if you did do that, would they take you off the road? Would they take away your weapon if you asked to speak to somebody? Or that's, you know.
If they felt you were a possible danger to yourself or to others, they would take away your weapon. Otherwise, they might move your role as to what you do.
Yeah.
Like you could end up just working in records. And just that way you're off the street until they can get
away from the scene.
Exactly, until they can get
scenes are out. Yeah,
until you've seen help.
Now, do you think a lot of guys don't ask for help because of that?
I think there's a lot of guys that
So there's a stigma, like you.
I wouldn't say it's a stigma. I would say it's more that they're fearful,
right?
And they don't know how to ask for it. They don't know how to get the help that they should have. Let's put it that way. Maybe there is some stigma to it because they feel that they're. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. A lot of cops are type A personality,
macho.
Exactly, they don't want to feel that this is going to hinder them from their performance.
Right.
And unfortunately, it does.
Now, for me, therapy changed my life. I had a situation that happened. And I definitely felt myself losing control. You know, back when I was a kid, I was around some violence, and I could have worried. I could have. We were talking on one of the first podcasts. I could have very well have been that kid that went down that role, and would be dead today or way before. But met Matt in what we call our circle, and then my circle grew. I met you, so I end up having these positive people in my life down the road. But you know me at one time. I used to love to fight, and that was not good. You know what I mean?
I'm only laughing because I'm reminiscing out a couple of times about this.
And I was good at it. But I had that switch, and that switch was fear-based. And if you flick that switch, I could be that person. And then I finally said to myself one day, I can't continue to let that happen. So I went and got help, and it was for a long time, probably over a year, but it was enough to make me start thinking differently. Now, it was funny because when I let go of that person, I'm a hugger. You guys know I'm always trying to hug and stuff like that. So and I was talking about this with a prior podcast person where we have this notion that guys are supposed to be this big tough and
macho.
Nothing gets through.
Yeah.
And when I finally let go of all that nonsense, I mean, again, look how handsome I am. You know what I mean? I can't afford to have this moneymaker. But once I finally let go, I finally I found a little bit of peace mentally, not in a weird way, but like lost that macho-ness. I don't have to be that guy. You know what I mean? I can be a guy that cries. And I do, I'll be the first to admit it. I see a sad commercial or something, or I'm done.
Butterflies and stuff.
I see Eye Candy Randy when he looks so sick, and I get sad. So I think that's very important, especially, and I don't know how to change that. Like, how do we change that philosophy that cops are supposed to not go get help or not talk and keep it bottled up? Because I think that's another problem.
It's tough because a lot of them are ex-military,
right?
And that's one of the things, and you don't really talk about being ex-military. And a lot of those guys that were ex-military never got help for when they were in combat and so forth.
Right.
So why would they get help as a police officer?
Yeah, and I talked about that with a bunch of people at one time. I took a lot of shit for that. So basically what I said was, I don't always think it's a good idea for someone to get out of the military and be a cop. And the person I was speaking to was out of the military and became a cop. So he postured right up, right? I said, hear me out, man.
Like, that's my zone right there, man.
And it was a great conversation. Like, after we got done, he's like, I get what you're saying, man, because he wasn't that guy.
Yep.
He didn't have those issues, but it was a great conversation because he brought up people that, and I don't know who these people are, but he brought up certain situations where, that definitely affected their job once they became cops. And
it's a different mentality.
Yeah.
Being a cop and being someone in the military, they have, I shouldn't say a different mentality. It's there's a different separation. Being a police officer, you have to be this way. You have to have compassion. Whereas, in the military, you're asked to do a job, and you're asked to, depending upon what the situation is, everything is geared towards that.
It's forward.
Everything's forward.
Yep.
You take a step back, that's not just your life, that's somebody else's life. That's your station, your camp, everything.
Yeah. The rules of engagement are obviously different.
Totally different. And I mean, look at as a police officer, you're a police officer enforcing the law. You're a psychologist. You're a sociologist. Because you're sitting there dealing with family situations left and right. You're talking to people left and right. You may be downplaying their issues that they may have, whether they had PTSD, whether they had dependent issues, whether they're the physically harming themselves and stuff like that.
Right.
You're trying to help these people out. So it's a
then we talk about addiction, and I'm sure we can correlate alcoholism into that because, I don't know what that number looks like, but I'm going to look it up right now.
See, and this is also too just a lot of things that people can't be afraid to talk about or to bring up, you know, and that's why you said, you know, oh, I gotta feel macho. I can't say nothing, or I can't bring this topic up because my manhood is at stake. Where, I mean, lives are at stake. Your life is at stake. Others' lives are at stake. People you're around, family. You know, it's that's part of the conversation. You know.
Yeah, it says right here, 23% of surveyed officers said they had alcohol abuse problems.
I believe it.
Which do not include just alcoholism, but a tendency to binge drink. So that means 1 in every 4 officers suffers from an alcohol problem. You know, and that was something that affected my family directly. I mean, even when I was a kid, you know, that was an issue, and I don't want to go too far into that, but I think those are all important. And we talk about change and working in how all that stuff. Like, I don't think it's just one problem. I think it's a lot of different problems, and I'm a problem solver, so I like to get down to the bottom of it and then see what we can do. But I think number one, I don't think you guys get enough help, and you know, even for me, like I remember that switch. I remember that switch exactly the day I came home from one of my sessions, and I'm like, man, I feel totally different. And you kind of like, I want other people to feel what I'm feeling right now. You know what I mean? So you see so much stuff, and I can't imagine what that stuff. You know, we talk to my buddy all the time, and he goes to a dead body or someone commits suicide, and I don't want to see that shit. You know what I mean? So I'm asking somebody to do that for me, but I also want to make sure that person gets the help they need if they need it. And there should be no shame in that. And I think there is. I mean, let me rephrase that. I think there's a stigma that tells these guys it's not okay to go get help. You know, the whole manly thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
you know,
exactly what
again,
it is.
if you don't have the right supervisor.
I'm going to tell you, they do talk about people getting avenues of people getting help, just that a lot of people don't get the help, and that's where a lot of issues are. But I can say, in all my years of law enforcement, the way that I always was able to defuse or calm down is the ball busting and just talking about it with the guys. We used to do a lot of like pranks and stuff with each other, and just joking around,
right?
Moving people's stuff, hiding people's stuff.
Right.
I love fuckery.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And
that's one of my things.
Or tomfoolery, whatever you want to use an old term. But that's the way that we would get through bad situations.
Right.
And that's how some of us were able to handle things. My wife tells me to this day that she is, as much as I miss doing the job sometimes, she's like by far happier that I'm not doing the job anymore, because she sees that I'm smiling more often. I'm happier. I spend more time with the kids now. Just those little things, and she's enjoying it, even though I miss the job. I can't do the job. I'll never be able to do the job just because of the trauma, and basically I've been told I can't wrestle with anybody anymore because of
physicality of it.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
So
and like, you know, you're saying about therapy. I mean, what's one of the best therapies? Laugh.
oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you go through. I mean, I couldn't even imagine the situations that you guys have seen, you know, but to sit there and you say, hey, you know what, next day, hey, we're going to ball bust. We're going to, we're going to mess around with somebody's locker. That whole vibe, that whole situation, I mean, that's something that you have to do to get through the day.
Yep.
You know, and those are the things that help. So, you know, yeah, there might not be, you know, or maybe they do, maybe they don't, you know, have those help sessions or help centers that are needed. But if there's ways that guys can do that on a daily or whatever to get through, I mean, that's a plus right there.
You know, so right now I'll take the time out to shout out 3 guys, Matt, Jeff, and Jesse. Those are 3 cops that I have a huge amount of respect for. They always showed me the utmost respect since the day I met them. And 2 of those guys I've known for years, and since I was one of them since I was a kid. So, you know, it definitely bothers me where we are now with the whole, you know, cop thing. I remember one day I called up my buddy. I'm like, what does fuck 12 mean? And he's like, I don't know. It's like 911. I'm like, yeah, but that's 11. It doesn't even make sense what that is, you know? But that's becoming
I ain't never heard of that.
You never heard it? It's everywhere. Like, I don't even understand it. Like, if you're gonna be that way, at least
the hell is it?
It's fuck the cops. It's fuck 12.
Fuck 12 is
Yeah. And it doesn't make sense. I don't
yeah.
like. I mean, if somebody can put it in the comments what that means, I mean,
I'm uneducated. I can't even figure that one out, man.
You know, and I was stumped. I was stumped for like 3 days. And I'm like, 9. It doesn't even make sense. But that's
No idea.
that's what do they call that math?
New math.
No, Common Core. That's probably Common
I've
Core
heard
math.
5-0.
Right? Oh yeah,
But I've never heard.
I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to get on that later and figure that out, man.
I don't understand it, but you know, it's their.
But that's all. But that goes
policy.
with all this bull crap. You know, all this crap going on right now. All this stuff that happened all in Seattle. Oh, we're gonna get rid of the cops, and you're gonna get rid of the cops in freaking Seattle, freaking Washington. You're gonna get rid of the freaking police force.
You hear what happened to the social worker when they were using the social worker?
No.
Yeah. Social worker went to a domestic situation. She got stabbed to death.
Right.
Yeah, we have one here now that works. I don't know what her schedule is, but they're integrating her into.
But she goes with a police officer.
Right.
There, they don't have a
Right,
police
but
officer.
that's the thing I'm saying. It's like you're gonna get rid of the police force, or you're gonna, you know, again, what was the other thing? The budget and the funds, and you're gonna defund the police station and all this stuff for what?
Yeah.
Who's gonna answer the calls?
I'm not for
who's gonna head out to the crime scene? You? I mean seriously.
Not me.
You know, it's ridiculous, man.
I definitely don't agree with the defunding, because I think that creates a whole other set of problems.
Mm-hmm.
I like this, what we're doing with the other person that's there, the therapist or whatever, counselor, wherever she is. I think that's a step in the right direction.
Right.
Again, that's that forward motion, right? That it's okay to have that change. But you can obviously see in some parts of the country what the funding really means.
Right.
I'm not living there.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? It's we have to come together, like these review boards and stuff like that. Like I was talking to my buddy. I don't necessarily think it's fair to have an all-civilian review board. I think it needs to be mixed. It has to have some people from law enforcement, some people from the community. You know, some people. I don't know how that all works, but I would like to be part of the solution that way, where, again, having those conversations about how we have that change. So if we do have a guy that's a rogue guy, that gets taken care of. But I think it also comes down to a point where it's the good cops need to oust the bad cops. You know, I think that's where it needs to happen. It needs to happen in-house. Because I think you guys know who the shitheads are, but I don't know how we handle someone like that. That's my fear is like what I had before. I'll run into that guy. You know what I mean? But I know that if I do the right thing, if I say the right things, if I act professional, the likelihood of I'm being affected by him so much is probably going to be lower. But I read law books every day. My buddy gave me all his law books, and I read those every single day. When I'm at lunch, I read, and I constantly read. I like to be informed. I love the Constitution. I'm a big constitutionalist when it comes to, I'm fascinated how we generated the Constitution, and all the changes that have happened over the years and how we got where we are. You know what I mean? Because I hate to say something, and I hate to be a hypocrite, and I hate to give out wrong information.
Well, that's why you always got to have the research to back it up, too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we talk about all the time, like doing the work. If you have a difference of opinion, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Have some backing to it.
But yeah, show me
something.
why, you know,
Right.
give me some backup so I can understand it. You know, one of the things that I preach all the time is, again, I don't care that you have a difference of opinion. I'm really interested to know how you got there. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because we do live in the freest country in the world where you can have those opinions. But I think I don't think that the conversations that are happening now are totally filled with hate. If you're on the left or you're on the right, you're never going to see eye to eye. And I don't think that's. I think we can get beyond that at a certain point. Who
We
knows
have
when?
to. We have to.
You know what I mean? But
Otherwise, we're not going to have a good functioning society.
Right. And there was a point in time, like when we were kids, you could have a conversation with somebody and it didn't get out of hand like it is now. I mean, could you imagine now if you were in high school and you were a Republican and you were talking to a Democrat and holy shit.
Whole different times. I see kids to this day they'll come to school with flags and banners and all these things. Who did anybody at Comp bring a banner to school during freaking 92 or whatever elections? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Stuff like that didn't happen.
No. And I remember when people were going to walk out of my daughter's school, and I'm a Second Amendment fan. And she called me. She's like, in the morning, she's like, Dad, all these people are going to walk out to not support the Second. They're walking out to go against it. I said, listen, you know that I will not tell you what to do. It's your life experience. You've been around the Second Amendment. You make your own choice. And she called me back up later. She's like, I didn't go. I'm like, well, don't look at me for like that you did a great job. I'm either way. You know what I mean? Like my mother never kind of forced me with her political views or whatever. You know, she let me be informed, and then I created my own environment from there.
Same with my mother.
Yep. And I think that's why you and I can have those conversations. And
but see, I told you before, you know, we talked about doing things and making a stand and all that stuff. So all those people that walked out that day, have they done anything since for that same topic?
Yeah, probably
for
absolutely
that
not.
same reason.
Right.
You know, it's more about, you know, less about the movement than it is like, oh, I'm gonna walk out and make my stand for that day.
Right.
The next day you could care less.
Yeah.
Months later or years later, you could care less. Why are you not still doing the same thing? If that's what you stand so hard to believe in, still continue to do something
right
about it. You know, it's
and you know me, I'm a huge First Amendment fan too. Like people now they want to cancel free speech. And free speech isn't about what I'm saying right or what you think I'm saying right. Even if it's wrong and it's heinous and whatever, and it's wrong, and we all know it's wrong, I protect your right to say it. And at the end of the day, you're probably still a shithead, but it's your right to say it, right? But this cancel culture is something it's blowing my mind, right? And we see it in Facebook. We see this, we're just going to cancel you out, and we act like you don't exist. And that is a slope that it's going to bring down this country, as far as I'm concerned. And that's again another reason why the podcast exists, so people can voice their opinion.
Don't cancel this. Keep this going.
Well,
FAA,
and I'm not making any money. I'm not making any money off this shit. I'll tell you right now. But again, this is an open forum.
Right.
Someone wants to come in. I say it every single podcast. If you don't like something I say, you want to address something, we have an extra seat. We actually have another seat over there now.
Right.
You know, so you coming here today was huge, man. I mean, I can't thank you enough for being here.
I'm actually glad I came.
Yeah.
Those nerves.
It's not as bad though,
No,
right?
it's not as bad.
And also too, like let people know out there, addiction can happen to anybody.
Absolutely.
It has no gender, race, age, demographic, location. I mean, anything. It can happen to anybody.
My brother living right under my roof, and he wanted to follow in my footsteps at one point in time, and just happens. Never know.
It's one day. It's one day of taking a pill. I can remember clear as day. I had CPAP surgery, or the sleep apnea surgery, and I had so I apologize at every podcast because I sound so nasally and stuff. I take Flonase twice a day. I take Allegra every day. I have been blessed with the worst sinuses in God's creation. I had surgery, try to take care of this stuff. And I can remember getting out of surgery and I couldn't take, I think I was just talking to somebody about this. Oh, Dave was talking about it on the last podcast. I got a big thing of, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a big liquid thing of whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that kind of stuff. And I've had kidney stones where one of them was 9 millimeters big. And that was one of the very few times that I begged to make the pain stop. And that was I found religion that day with that 9 millimeter kidney stone, which they ended up having to go in and get. But anytime you're at the emergency room, you leave with medication to take home, painkillers. I think they're getting better with it now, but even back when you were on, I bet you saw people just with big, and shopping doctors. And my whole thing with that too is, did any of these big pharma companies, anybody go to jail for doing all this in immoral shit with doctors to get them, these kickbacks and getting them to force more medication out, more painkillers out into the world?
Right.
Billions.
Right.
Billions. It's just another thing that we do in this country is that we support these big pharmas in a way that, you and I would never have those protections. You know what I mean? I did like the fact the other day, though, that I heard that 48 states have now got together and they're trying to deregulate Facebook now. I love that because I think they got too powerful. What
about the other two?
Well, we'll get there. It starts by one, and then and then he'll point the fingers at the next one.
Right.
Well, he owns. Well, don't forget, he owns YouTube. Yeah. Oh no, he does. No, does Google own YouTube?
No, Google's got YouTube.
Yep. So it's Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
And there's got to be one
Maybe
other
Twitter.
one.
I know Twitter and Facebook were trying to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with that.
It'll eventually happen. It just takes forever in a day to break those guys down. I mean, I don't know how he gets that powerful. And then they were just talking about this new, I can't remember the name of it, but he has a computer program that captures everything we're doing. How is that even legal? That's a whole other podcast, man. But it's insane.
That's your next conspiracy theory technology podcast.
We got to make tinfoil hats. And then the next podcast has to be with the tinfoil hats on, and we just go balls out. So you did autopsies too?
Yeah.
Oh God. What was that like?
People are dying to get into the job.
Oh, hold on a minute.
We're still learning those buttons.
Yeah. The first one. I actually have a cheat sheet somewhere here. I don't know what I did with it.
I told you, man. You got to get them little labels on there, man.
I don't know what I did with it. Oh, here it is right here. If I would have took out my handy-dandy sheet here, I could have done this one.
Get you a label maker for Christmas.
I should have actually wrote an erasable marker, but stupid me writes in a pen. It's never coming off. I do have the backside.
Stupid
though.
you writing a fat crayon. What are you talking about?
You can't erase those really good either. So how'd you get started doing that?
Started out actually doing phlebotomy, and then from phlebotomy, I saw the position was posted on the board, and I talked to the head of the department, and he asked me if I had anatomy and physiology in my background. I said, well, in the military, they trained us a lot with anatomy and physiology, and he's like, perfect.
Because I was good with the ladies. Anatomy and physiology.
And next you know, I had the job.
So what was the first one like? Did you throw up, or was it?
Let me tell you the third one that I did. I'm going, God, this guy looks familiar.
God.
Why does he look so familiar? I'm looking at the name. The name's not ringing a bell. And did the whole evisceration, took out the liver, and the liver was enormous, and it was filled with all these fluid sacs all over it called blebs. and they're all over the liver. And normal liver, I think, was like between 1,500 and 1,800 grams. This was like 2,400 grams or something like that.
Damn.
It was huge. Come to find out, I go home later that day. My mother's like, "Did you happen to see such and such come through there?" I'm like, "Holy crap. Yeah, why?" "I used to date him. That was the guy that used to take you camping and stuff." I'm like, "Oh my God." Didn't realize it.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Were you ever like, as you were doing it, be like, what am I doing? Like,
Be honest with you, when I did it, I'd always view it because I grew up in a Catholic household. My family was huge in Catholics. I went to Bible school, the whole 9 yards, and just every time I did an autopsy, I viewed it as I'd want this autopsy to be done the way that it would be done on me. So I'd cover the eyes, I'd cover the private areas and so forth, just out of respect.
mm-hmm.
But it's amazing. I didn't realize that I knew this person. I'm sitting there going, to me, I knew him, but I couldn't place the name or the face.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, couldn't believe it.
So how many people would you have to do this to a week?
See, I was in the surgical aspect first, so I would handle all, like when you go in and get your tonsils removed, when you get when someone has a baby and their the uterus comes out, what they would do is they'd cut up little sections of it, and put it into these little block cassettes, and then they'd microscopically, after putting wax on them, make slides out of them. My area was I would prep the body parts that came in and put them into the computer as the pathologist or pathology assistant would do the actual cutting of it. And I would do that first, but on weekends I would do autopsies. I'd cover the primary autopsy assistant most of the time. So I'd be like coming in, and it was great. I shouldn't say doing an autopsy is great. What was great was the money that I was making at the time. Here's a kid that's 22, 23 years old, doing these autopsies. I was dressed like a doctor. I'd be walking. And the hospital I worked at was a teaching hospital.
Yeah.
So you had a bunch of nurses and so forth there. And here I was, Bob Campbell, wearing his green scrubs. And matter of fact, I met my wife while I was there. But the only thing I didn't like about it was when I didn't have kids yet, but having to do an autopsy on a kid. The one I can, to this day, I'll never, ever forget this. I had to prep a baby that was stillborn. I had to prep the baby and brought it in. I brought the baby into the office of where the autopsy room was. Wrapped the baby up, put a hat on the baby, just trying to downplay it. The mother and the father wanted to view the baby for the last time. So they came in. Mother was sitting down. Father was standing next to her, and I was standing here, and the nurse supervisor was over on the far side. Mother starts rubbing the baby's head. Father looks at me and goes, "He's not sleeping anymore, is he?" That was it. I had to walk right out of that room.
Damn.
And here's you know what my overtime was? Doing brain removals.
Oh, God.
For Alzheimer's studies. I made really good money for 15 minutes worth of work.
Yeah. Well, plus, too, I bet you there was an aspect of closure for families where you could, if someone died unexpectedly or whatever, that you would have an answer for them. Because I can't imagine. Like,
I wouldn't per se, but
but you were part of the solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, that's huge. Part of the solution.
Right.
That's another thing, right?
Damn.
As we do these podcasts, it's kind of funny. We come up with these words hit us.
Yeah.
Like, and I write these down, so don't mind me.
Part of the solution.
It's weird. Like, and I go back and I look at these and I take these phrases and I put them into another book. So I reread these as we go along. So these are impactful words. I know it's weird, but it's something I enjoy. I'm very I like motivational speaking. I like that forward motion.
Yeah.
I don't like, as much as I like sitting on the couch, I'm always, like we talked about the podcast, how to get to learn how to do all this stuff.
Yeah. But if you're sitting on the couch, that's what you're doing.
Right.
You know, like, oh, what is that? Or you might be watching. Wait, hold on. What is that? Let me bring that back a little bit. Let me write that down. Mir says it to me all the time. I'll watch something, especially if it's speeches. I'll watch something or hear something on there. She'll know, because she can be in another room, hear it. If I'm bringing it back, she knows I'm about to literally sit there and start putting it on my phone or holding it up to try to catch something, because, you know, talking to kids, talking to my teams, you know, whoever it might be, you know, it's something that what you just wrote down, part of the solution, that'll come back to you.
Yeah.
At some point or another. You'll talk to somebody else and you'll say it, or you'll find something to talk about. Yep. That topic.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you something may come up, you know, and you'll be like, it's part of the solution. And this is how you got to fix it. And this is what you got to do. And this is how you got to be a part of it. And that's what you have to.
Like, you know, to add on to this, you can be part of the problem, or you
Right.
can be part of the solution.
Right.
It's kind of funny how, like, when I hear that, you're already like
yeah, I already knew.
You already know what I'm
going
to
to
do.
Knew.
You know what I mean?
I got a book the same thing. I got a book filled with. I mean, you think about it. I do speeches, because when I talk to my teams, I don't. And it's funny, like you do that, because when I talk to my teams at banquets, I don't do the, hey, Jeff Pluff, you know, this is how he is. Bob Campbell, this is how. I've already done that all season long, you know. So when I'm at the banquets, I'm, you know, here's the topic that I'm going to talk about. It's going to relate to pretty much at some point of what I'm going to say is going to touch base with people in this room. And it's stuff like that. You have to write, just jot it down.
Yeah.
You know, it'll come back to you at some point.
It's true. I love going back and looking at words and phrases. Like when I do confirmations every morning, right, I just be thankful for like 10 things. I do my 10 things, my affirmations. I said confirmations.
Yeah, I was gonna help you out for a second, you know.
Yeah, I caught myself though. And then I have a vision board that I look at as I'm on my way out the door to go to work, and it just kind of sets me where I need to. So my mindset, and I wear a bracelet that says mindset. It's my buddy Roger. Shout out to my buddy Roger. He gave me this a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago. But there's two things it says on here: choice and mindset. So we have a choice every day to do the right thing or to change someone's life. And you have to be in a positive mindset. And that's some person you've always been, you know. And it's funny because when I read these, every time I go to look at it, I find myself like looking at it because of the person I'm around. You know what I mean? So you always had a positive mindset. And you always had a choice, like, and you've always done the right thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know about always done.
Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
You know where I was going.
But it's just you know, it's definitely it's the mindset's everything.
Yeah,
man.
man.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just Stuart Smalley, man. You know.
Yeah. Yep.
Strong enough, good enough. God darn it, people really like me.
Yep. Yep. So again, like today, the podcast, I can't tell you how awesome it is that you were here. If we could change one person's mind, and it just goes to show you that 2 people or 3 people can have a conversation. And we you know, we touched on a bunch of different subjects, but people are going to watch that and they're going to be like, wow, like I can talk about those things with other people. I can have a difference of opinion. You know, and I know it's not comfortable for you knowing that.
Let me just say something about that.
Yep.
If anything, if it does change someone's mindset, if they're looking at this and be like, I want them to think of what would happen if they weren't here.
Right.
How would their family feel?
Right.
Because I miss my brother more than anybody will ever know.
Yep.
His daughter misses him. I still go to his gravesite. I still at times feel like I've let him down. I miss him.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that they're not only affecting themselves, but they're affecting the people around them as well. So think about, if you can't think about yourself, think about your family and friends too.
Yeah.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time, Bob.
The part of
It just you got to think about everybody else.
yeah, you can't just think about yourself, because you're here on this earth where everybody can see you. So you came into a family. That family's still going to be thinking about you even if you're not there, and they're going to miss you. And I miss my brother more than anybody will ever know.
Yeah.
And there's times I'll sit there and I'll still be driving down the road where I feel like I'll talk to him till I'm blue in the face. And he may not be there, he may be there, he may not be there.
Right.
But still, you affect more people than just yourself.
Yeah.
And that's,
getting to what you just said about being there. I talk to my dad all the time, and it's weird, some of the stuff that he comes through, and a lot of it's electronic, which is really weird, right? Because they always say they can manipulate electronic stuff. I went for a COVID test a couple weeks ago, and I was like going out of my mind, and they say it's 72 hours, but it's like I need to know like tomorrow.
yeah.
So I got up in the morning. I was just going nuts, and I said to my dad, because I talk to him every morning, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, I need your help with this, right?" So I literally get on my laptop. 2 seconds later, my test results are here, negative. So on Windows 10, all these little tiles are on there.
How many days did it take?
Just 1 day.
Mine took 5.
Did it really?
Yeah.
I got it back the next morning.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. And on Windows 10, there's these little tiles that pop up, and they're always there, but they move. And I saw this little picture, like size of smaller than a postage stamp. I'm like, what is that? And I clicked on it, and it came up like 30 pictures of my dad. And I'll show you. I have it on my phone. I put it on Facebook, and it's my dad smiling. And every single one of those pictures. And it was a collage that my wife had put together for his funeral. But it's not a coincidence, though.
Right.
I mean, it's not a coincidence.
Talk about fate.
Yeah.
The night that I got into that accident,
Yep.
my grandmother had passed away.
The same night?
Same night.
Wow.
So I should call it my Nana. My Nana
Sure.
Passed away. And I always say that someone was there looking over and taking care of me through that. And
Because it's no shit. I saw the picture.
I'm telling you.
I saw the picture, man. It would keep me up at night if after I saw it, I couldn't believe that you made it out of that car. So it wasn't your time.
no,
It wasn't your time.
And it wasn't your time, but you also think about it too. You're here and you're doing something. You're putting in some work right now.
Yep.
You're helping out others, talking to others, and
Conversations.
and assisting any way that you can, and that's kind of what you got to look at it as too. Is okay. I could be gone, but I'm here for a reason, and now
Yep.
I need to do my work.
Yeah.
My wife always says that I'm one of those types of people, though, that can just strike a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
Like we'll go somewhere. And I'll be the type that'll just go in and be like, start talking with it.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was kind of persistent with you about coming on, because I knew you had an amazing story to tell. And again, it's all about helping people out. And we talked earlier, I won't talk about what we talked about, but one of your plans going forward is absolutely phenomenal. And if there's anything I can do to help you with that plan, so
it might be.
you know what I mean? This is another one of the reasons why the podcast is here. So, and personally, I'll do anything for you.
Maybe that'll help get your fear of other police officers. And
Yeah, I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. It's and I've those guys I gave a shout out to, those are guys that I would trust. You know what I mean? So it's just something I got to deal with, man. It's like my PTSD.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I know deep down inside I have a good support system. It's just something I have to realize that it was like getting struck by lightning, but it happened to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it is what it is. And so we're at an hour and a half. How do you feel?
It goes back.
And we had to do a double take.
Quick.
I told you, once you start rolling, man,
That's
it
great.
goes. It's smooth.
So you want to shout out to anybody?
I'm just gonna shout out, make a generalized statement, just say, I wish everybody safety in this time of that we're going through with all this COVID, and be strong.
Indeed.
Be part of the solution.
Yeah, it is, man.
What else you got for the podcast, Matty G?
Hey, I'm loving what you're doing. The topics that we talk about, and again, you talk about it's all about the conversation piece. This is why we do it. This is why you got to do it. And it's a little bit of mix of everything. And I think things that have been talked about touches base with a lot of people out there. Some people are going through it. Some people have been through it. It's give, take, love, laugh, and you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to keep bringing up the conversation and laugh.
Absolutely.
Bob talked about it earlier, and I'm going to say this to everybody out there too. Laugh at some part of your day each and every day. It's the best therapy that's out there.
Keeps the stress down.
Smile, laugh, show some kind of emotion. That'll cheer your day, make it a little brighter.
Who knows? You may make someone else laugh.
Yeah, right after this thing, I'm going to start crying, and you guys are consoling me. But, so one of my things, and I think that's a great thing we can add to this podcast, is that maybe at the end of the podcast, we start throwing stuff out there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're laughing now. So.
I know. So this is what it's about. So mine would be today to, if you know somebody who's on the other side of the fence, doesn't matter what the topic is, doesn't matter. Pick one, let that person, be honest with that person. This is how I feel. Would you mind sitting down with me and having this conversation? Just remember, it's not about the opposite that we're dealing with. It's how did we get there? Start that way first,
right,
and then move on. And as we get further and further with the podcast, I want to get a little more controversial, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think like one of the ones I want to have on is my sister-in-law. She's a vegan. She has been steadfast in her position, and I respect that, even though I'm not a vegan.
Yeah.
But again, it's how she got there. That's and shout out to Laura, because you're going to be on soon.
Yeah.
And it took me a number of years to understand. Like, I always respected it, but it took me a number of years to understand it. But then when I opened my mind up to people having a different lifestyle and a different, I became a better person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, all right, boys, we just hit at 1:40.
Love
It's
it.
time to shut this down.
Love it.
All right,
Thanks for having me
podcast
on.
number 11.
Shut it
Bob,
down. Shut them down.
it was an honor to have you here tonight, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
And you'll be back on soon enough, because this is addicting.
Yeah.
All right, guys, as always, peace.